whistleblower who was imprisoned for leaking military operation documents in Iraq and Afghanistan, which included the U.S. targeting of civilians. Well, now, Chelsea Manning has entered the blockchain space, championing privacy as a security consultant at privacy startup NIM. She's also the author of ReadMe.txt, a memoir. Please welcome Chelsea Manning to the show. Chelsea, great to have you. Good morning.
Thank you.
Now, you've previously talked to CoinDesk before, and you told us there's something seriously wrong culturally where we are used to giving away our privacy and data for digital convenience. And I wonder if crypto makes that even worse. People are now willing to give away their life savings amid the digitization of finance.
Right. And I've come into the crypto space as a skeptic of digital assets. I'm not necessarily saying that digital assets are bad per se, but I've been skeptical of the culture around them and around sort of the get rich quick sort of neo yuppie attitude that that has sort of come up in recent years. I mean, obviously we in this crypto winter we're seeing the consequences of the sort of get rich quick and the expecting the line to go up sort of culture that's brought it up out of here. But I really do think that there are some fundamental aspects of the technology that are interesting. And as somebody who played around with this stuff, long before anybody had ever heard of, Bitcoin or anything like that, just in terms of like the technical aspects of cryptography and be able to verify information in order to be able to provide for your privacy in the future. And we're working on that with some of the newer technologies that are going to become being developed right now in this space. That's one of the reasons why I've sort of jumped in on NIM as a technology.
I wonder, we're closely tracking this Sam Bankman-Fried case, and I wonder what your thoughts are on all of that. And is it strange that people champion crypto because this technology is trustless? You can remain pseudonymous, and yet time and again, people trust these crypto personalities and get burned.
I actually think that there were some assumptions that were made with the technology that just because it's crypto, it's safe and it's secure. But the truth is that people have been jumping to the gun on I think some of the expectations of especially those who don't understand the underlying technology and sort of it is new. I mean, this cryptocurrency as a concept was very new. Like in the late 90s, you sort of had the Neil Stephenson book, sort of speculating on this stuff, and then it wasn't until 2008, 2009 that you saw the innovations of Bitcoin. And in the cryptography space, that's relatively new, right? It took 20 years for the Enigma machine to be generated before the Second World War. In terms of the longevity of this technology, we're only starting to really understand what the problems that are going to rise with cryptography in terms of providing privacy, in terms of providing verification of of whether or not you are the yield or not, because in this case it turns out that a lot of people were the yield, right? And they didn't know that because the technology in terms of verifying where your assets are at any given moment. It isn't quite there yet. It isn't ripe, right? But I do think that there is a chance now for this given this discussion, to innovate in a way to ensure that that where your assets are. You don't necessarily need to know who you're talking to, but or what you're doing, but you can verify that that you do in fact that this isn't in fact coming from a person who is authenticated, who is valid, who has a reputation.
Do you think that it's too late culturally for that to happen, though? I mean, in the previous segment, we were talking to somebody about whether or not the SEC or the CFTC should regulate crypto spot markets. And here we are, we're talking about government oversight over cryptocurrencies. Do you think that culturally, at least, these get-rich-quick aspects to it have taken over the entire progress in development in this space, and has moved it in a direction that it's inevitably going to be centralized, and it's inevitably going to be overseen by governments, and inevitably going to be part of mainstream finance rather than an alternative to mainstream finance.
I think that is a path that is going to be taken, at least in terms of like there's going to be a main line of this space that is going to be subject to regulation. Regulation is coming, whether it's the SEC or Congress or the European Union. Regulation is coming. This is a reality. The crypto space is going to have regulation coming. My interest is my interest in the technology is actually in not just blockchain and not just the crypto assets, but in terms of like verification of information. And I think that having verification of information outside of the regulatory space is a way of ensuring that you aren't just replicating what the Fed is, or that you aren't just replicating what FTX was, right? So I think that there is a chance for innovation in the space. Maybe not necessarily now, but I think in the next 5 to 6 years, I think that there is an opportunity for technologies that, especially with utilities, right? Because like NIM is a utility token, right? It is a utility tool. It is about privacy, right? It is about creating what is called the NIXnet, which is a way of anonymizing your actual traffic and your communications, like a VPN over a decentralized, not even a decentralized, but a distributed network. So I think that utilities are going to be a part of the future of blockchain technology, which is not necessarily asset-based, but I think that it becomes a way of validating that reputation. It becomes a way of ensuring that that computation across the network is rewarded. And I think that these kinds of innovations, the sort of post-blockchain crypto space is I think where the future is going to be, given the fact that whenever it comes to tokenized assets, regulation is almost certainly coming.
So what kind of besides, obviously you're going to say NIM, but are there any other projects out there that you think, the Zcashes of the world, right? And Monero, do you think that any of those things have a chance, first of all? And second of all, do you think that there's also a problem, as you mentioned before, you being, you are the yield, everyone being the yield. Do you think that that's the same case in DeFi? Do you have any hope in DeFi?
So to your first question, there are plenty of technologies that are similar. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. Polychain is investing in BitTensor, for instance, which is a distributed machine learning network that rewards people for computation across the network. Maybe we'll go down the lines of rewarding computation. And have essentially another utility across, to actually have a function beyond making, beyond line go up, right? I think that, I think that zero knowledge proofs are going to cause an enormous, or they're going to create an enormous amount of innovation. I'm very excited about zero knowledge proofs. I think that I know that there needs to be hardware innovation, because it isn't something that is easily, zero knowledge proofs are quite computationally intensive, and that there isn't necessarily the hardware built for it yet. At least for large scale applications. But I think it's coming, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of investment in the space. It just isn't gonna pop up, in the next 6 months, right? It's gonna take 2-3 years for some of these tools to ripen and to be developed. And to go to your second question, I do think that I think DeFi does have a chance. I don't think it's dead. I don't think DeFi is dead, but I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for the culture to change a bit, or at least to become a bit more, not necessarily conservative, but a bit more hesitant, than to just, allow for actors in the space to just be like, this is the messiah of, crypto. This is how this is going to work. For the future, for the foreseeable future. I think that overpromising and under-delivering is not something that the crypto community is going to accept for much longer.
So you've spoken out about the dangers of apps that are being put on phones, specifically TikTok. You're concerned about that. How does that, first of all, with regards to TikTok, how does that, something so culturally, permeating as TikTok, how do you even warn people that, hey, this data might not, this data might be used against you or might be used against democracy, for instance? And second of all, overnight, in the past few hours, we saw that Twitter has disbanded the Trust and Safety Council that was there overseeing some of some of the issues going on there. What are your thoughts on that, and how does it play into this whole issue of privacy and free speech versus potentially harmful dialogue and potentially harmful things that are used to cause more violence and things against people?
Right. I think it's a great question. I think that social media and consumer surveillance, because we have this gigantic trail of information, right? Obviously, I'm an advocate for NIM because of this kind of technology, because of how easy it is to track this kind of data. I do think that we need to start thinking infrastructurally about how the internet runs as we move into the 2030s and 2040s, because I think that actually, and this is a hot take, so you'll get a hot take from me. But I think that social media has peaked. I think that we've reached a point of saturation. We went from 9% of people pre-pandemic being quote unquote extremely online in wide broadband access countries to almost 30% by late 2021. I think that we've reached social media saturation. I don't think that daily active users is going to go up for any of these sites that are that are projected to just grow and grow and grow and grow and get engagement. I think it's exhausting people. I think that that the amount of surveillance and the amount of algorithmic bubble creating is finally starting to reach a point where it could be a health crisis for people's mental health, for people's physical health, and people's isolation. And I think that I think that there's a sort of resistance to this is going to develop, and I think that new technologies are going to come up that are going to allow people to continue to communicate. Not even thinking of something like NIM being a VPN style way of protecting your data across a mixed net, but something as simple as Signal, right? Having more. Having larger group chat access, something similar to Telegram, Signal stories have just come up. So I think that we're in a space where we don't necessarily need to have these gigantic social media sites where you post one thing and it gets a million and a little database entry incrementally goes up and up and up, and you get rewarded with your smiley face and your heart. I think that's going to exhaust people to a certain extent. It already has to a certain extent, and I think that people want to maintain their connections with the people that they have closer. So I think that smaller social media networks, I think that smaller communities in the online space, and I think that newer technologies that don't necessarily. I just think of Be Real, which is a new social media tool that I use that collects a little bit of data about me, but it's not spreading huge amounts of information out everywhere across the world, and I'm not getting bombarded with ads every 3 seconds.
Yet, but what do you make of the Twitter aspect then?
So Twitter, Twitter's obviously. Twitter was going to change. It didn't matter who was going to buy it. It was a significant amount of change was going to have to happen. It wasn't generating revenue. I think that Twitter's sudden decisions regarding the employment were cuts that any CEO would have had to make. Obviously, Elon Musk is making drawing a lot of is making it a bit more of a circus than I think a Honda style CEO would make it. But I think that these cuts were going to come, and I think that it goes towards the confidence that people have in the site. I think that people are going to start to question how much they want to engage with the social media site. We've already seen celebrities say that they don't want to. We've already seen brands, sort of have a hesitancy to do so. And I think that having a trust and safety board, would, it would provide more confidence for people that, that the site, is going to operate in a way like this. But, you also have to do the balance of, Twitter is a company and it has to generate revenue and it has to generate, you can't, it doesn't come from nothing. And I think that Twitter grew too fast. And I think that, that a significant amount of change was going to happen on Twitter, regardless of, of whoever bought it. And I think that, I think that confidence in the site is, if Twitter and, obviously the new owner don't start to get more start to generate more confidence in Twitter as a business very quickly in the next 6 months, because I don't think that it's going to fall apart in two weeks. It's just that's not possible. Okay. But I do think that if there isn't a turnaround in the next 6 months to a year, we could start to see a significant slowdown in Twitter in Twitter's operations.